Okay, so you guys face problems all day, every day, and you solve problems all day, every day. Sometimes it's really an easy solve for you, so you don't even think about it. You just roll through the day. How many of you have a dry mouth, so you reach into your pocket or into your purse or something and get a piece of gum and put it in your mouth? How many times do y'all do that? And how many times do you even think about it? Or maybe it's a mint. Well, you have solved a problem, right? You had a dry mouth. You do this. How many of you, like when you are getting ready to come to school, you look at the weather to decide what to wear, and then you pick your clothes out based on that? You are solving a problem. And like I was saying, a lot of you don't feel like you're creative, and that's only because you don't give yourself credit for a lot of the things that you do on a daily basis. How many of you read Entrepreneur Magazine? Oh my gosh, I can't believe everybody didn't raise their hand. I got one. Well, the latest issue just came out, and it has Drew Barrymore, and they have really interviewed her. She's done a lot to like launch a lifestyle brand during COVID. How many of you know who Drew Barrymore is? Yeah, do you know anything about her backstory? Anything about her? She started off as a child actress, and then she went the way of a lot of child actors. She got way into drugs, way into a lot of problems, lots of problems. And so she had unbelievable hurdles to overcome. So in all of that, she remained optimistic, has overcome a lot of hurdles, and during COVID decided to launch a lifestyle brand. And so some of the questions that come at her naturally because of a lot of things she's overcome. And they said, how do you do it? How do you stay resilient? How do you stay persistent? And she said that she started keeping a did list. And so how many of you keep to-do list? Awesome. Well, then as she pointed out in there, she said, I also keep a did list. And these are things I've done already, things that I'm proud of. So how many of you can sit there right now and think for just a moment and think of 3 things that you've done in your life that you're proud of? Yeah? You can think of this. How many times have you written that down? I just thought her solution was brilliant because she says, write these down. And at a time where you're feeling like, I'm not sure I can do this. I'm not sure I'm creative. I'm not sure if I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not sure. Whatever your goal is, to pull out your did list and look at it and remind yourself you can do it. You can. So I want you all to think about problems that you solved. And that's why I ask you the question, what's a problem you faced and have you solved it? Because you guys do this successfully all day, every day. We're just going to harness those skills and take them into the entrepreneurial world and teach you to be just a little bit more creative when you solve them. Everybody good with that? Okay. Now today I want to go through several different concepts that I want you all to understand. Some of them are in PowerPoint notes on the website. Some of them are not, and are things I'm just going to give you in the lecture today. So you're going to need to take notes and to pay attention to that, okay? Let's move back. Let me find my marker. I don't know what to do with my black marker. There it is. Okay. And let's take this back to some of the things, the philosophy we're going to go through, thinking about this is design think, right? So design think has 5 different stages. Make sure this is on the video. If not, I'm going to move the camera. Okay, I'm going to move the camera a little bit. Hey there, all you in COVID land. Okay, there we go. So we've got 5 stages to design thinking. Design thinking is a human-centered process by which we're going to innovate and solve a market problem. The first stage is empathy. We've talked a lot about that. This is where we make observations, and then we put ourselves in the customer's shoes to figure out how they feel. How do they feel? We want to identify what pains they want alleviated and what gains they want to feel. When we do that, then we get to the define stage. And this is where we articulate what we found in empathy. We write out the pains we want to alleviate, the gains we want to create for our customers. After we do that, then this is where we begin to ideate. And in order to do this well, we've got to exercise our creativity skills. And that's where this class is going. We're about to start working a lot on that skill so that we can get much better at ideate. By the time that we get to the end of the semester, you're also going to be building a prototype. Now, a prototype can be like your minimal viable product. This is something that is going to be a small, scaled down, cheaper version of the product that you want to take to market. A prototype. After we build the prototype, then we're going to do some product validation by testing the product. Meaning we're going to take that prototype, put it into the hands of our potential customers, let them try it out. And then they've got to give us feedback. Once they give us feedback, then we're going to iterate, make iterations to our prototype. And we're going to go through this process as many times as we have to until we figure out exactly what our product needs to be to satisfy market demand. And this is the design thinking process. Now, it's human-centered. It comes back to empathy. It's about solving what customers want, not solving observations. So coming back here. All right. Now, when we do this, we're talking about going from creation, where we're creating all of this, to implementation, putting it into the market's hands. Now, by the end of the semester, you're going to be able to go all the way from creation to implementation. I want you to go read these slides and learn about this, okay? Some other things that you have learned at this point revolve around, if you've been in my 386 class, you've heard this part of the lecture where if this is an entrepreneur and we draw a circle around them, then we know that this circle is representative of everything that we know. And everything we know is based on our experiences in a given amount of time. So at any moment in time, we have a limited amount of knowledge that we can use to make decisions. We need to be really self-aware and understand our strengths and weaknesses within our bounded rationale. That includes traits, all kinds of things here. And as we do this, and we think about the fact that we have limited knowledge, then that lets us know that if we really want to make good decisions, then the more places that we can reach outside of our boundary of knowledge to get information from, then the larger our circle of knowledge becomes. Much larger it becomes. This gets us to something called, not necessarily with team building, but in grasping this information, is called crowdsourcing. Any of you heard of crowdsourcing? Yeah? So I want you to be familiar with this. So I know that there's some slides in there where we talk about crowdsourcing and we talk about crowdfunding. And what this really boils down to is it's important for us to reach out to as many sources as possible to get a little bit of knowledge. As many as possible. You're not reaching out to one person to get a huge body of knowledge. You need to reach out to a lot of people and get a lot of little bits and pieces of knowledge. The more that you can do that, the better you can ideate, develop prototypes to take to market. The more successful you'll be. Now, when we start talking about crowdsourcing, we can do that in terms of information from people. We also can talk about it in terms of money. And you guys have heard of like crowdfunding, Kickstarter, these types of things, right? It's a really cool way to go out and get a little bit of money from a whole lot of people. And it serves a lot of different purposes. The first purpose it serves is you get money to build your business. The second purpose that it serves here in crowdfunding is, how many of you have ever participated? You ever done that? You ever participated in a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe kind of thing? Yes? Don't you feel ownership of that project when you do it? Don't you feel ownership of that project when you do it? So if you do this, you're immediately creating a group of cheerleaders. People who want to see you succeed because they've invested in you. Now, one of the most intriguing case studies that you can see in crowdfunding goes back to when President Obama ran for president. And he had an unbelievable business model. Historically, in politics, what would happen is people would go out to PACs or big corporations or big donors, and they would get a big sum of money from a small group of people. He flipped it over on his side. And he said, no, actually what I'm going to do is he launched the first ever crowdfunding that we've seen in a political campaign. And you guys are probably way too young to remember it. But he just said, I want a lot of people to give me $5. If a whole lot of people will just give me $5, that'd be great. And they did. And they did. So in his first presidential campaign, he raised a majority of his money through a crowdfunding site. And then what happens is, once you've given him $5, then psychologically he has created connection, and you're more likely to vote for him. It's a really interesting model, isn't it? I've got a super good friend right now who has gone through Kickstarter. She works in North Carolina, and she has developed steel-toed shoes, boots that are fashionable for women. So we've seen an upsurge of women in engineering jobs and construction jobs in different places where women aren't usually present. And there is really a limited amount of clothing, steel-toed boots, protective equipment for women to wear that look stylish. And she saw this problem. So she went out and she's developed this really stylish boot, and she did one of the most successful Kickstarter campaigns I've ever seen. Such that, give her $90 and you'll get a pair of boots. And she raised all of the money that she needs to do her first round of inventory. Those people who invested up to $90 are going to get a pair of boots. So she's created a group of brand ambassadors. It's really pretty ingenious. So it's super cool. I tell you all of this because I want you to understand that when it comes to being creative and getting the best innovations or the best solutions, we've got to be creative internally, but we've also got to reach out to a lot of people and bring in all that knowledge. Once we bring in all that knowledge, then we got to process it. Any questions so far? No? Okay, I want to introduce to you a concept now that came from a book I read that was genius. And the book is called Stretch by Scott Sonnenschein. And I would absolutely recommend that you go read this book. His last name is Sonnesheim, Scott Sonnenschein. And he introduced a concept called stretching versus chasing. And this is something that you guys need to internalize and really think about as you decide to become entrepreneurs. Because starting next class, you're going to have a whole lot of group projects to do where you're going to have to start implementing all of this. Whole bunches of it. So let's talk about stretching versus chasing. Now, Timon's model of entrepreneurship tells us that entrepreneurship is market-driven, right? And if you read into it a little bit more, it also says that the best way to start a business is with a lean startup. Y'all remember that? Lean startup. And a lean startup means that you start your business with only adequate resources. The fewest amount of resources that you really need to open your business. Not all of them. And then what you do is you grow. So as your business becomes profitable, then you reinvest your money back in. That's called bootstrapping. And then we grow our business through bootstrapping. The reason that we do this is this helps to minimize risk associated with investing a lot of money and then losing it. So it helps to minimize risk. And that's cool that Timmons and all these other scholars pointed this out, but they really didn't talk about the mindset that goes with it. How do you do that? Who was it that said, right here in the middle? I asked you about the airplane that I asked you to build. And so for people on the video, last class, they had to dig into their backpack and they could build an airplane or something that looked like an airplane. And they were limited to 5 items. They could use 5 items to build it, 1 or up to 5. And then they were going to fly them. And he said it was very challenging because of the limited amount of resources that you had. As an entrepreneur, in the beginning, you are going to be challenged with that same feeling every time because you're going to have a limited amount of resources to start your business. In all of the projects that you do from this point on in this class, you're going to have a limited amount of resources to come up with your products that you're going to pitch. Limited. And if it's limited, that means you have to get creative. So let's go back to the book, Stretching versus Chasing, for a minute, and let's talk about a mindset shift that you all have got to start to internalize. Stretching occurs, a stretching mindset is when you take a few amount of resources and you stretch them out and you get as creative with them as you can to make them go as far as they can. Does that make sense, everybody? Now, I'm guessing that a lot of you in here are good at this already. How many of you are put on like a limited budget by your parents every month? Got that? Okay. And then by the time you've got it on your own, right? And then by the time you get to the end of the month, then all of a sudden something comes up. All my friends are going to a concert, or all my friends are going to hear this band, or oh my gosh, I've got $20 left. I can either eat or drink. What's it going to be? I'm sure none of you have ever been in that situation, have you? No? What are some of your creative solutions when you're there at the end of the month and you're going to eat or you're going to drink? What do? Yes. Huh? Use your dining dollars. Okay, see, tapping into the resources. What else do you do? What would you do? Who starts scanning the drink specials? See the cheapest place to drink.
Go to Red Shed, no cover.
Red Shed, no cover. See, you know that. Okay. What else do you do? Oh, you don't sit there and act innocent like this didn't happen to you. What else do you do? Or maybe you just don't want your parents to know how much you spent at a certain place. What do you do? You what? I'm sorry? You start selling things. Awesome. Okay. You get a loan from your brother. Fantastic. You'll deliver Uber Eats for an hour or two. See, there you go. Getting super creative. What else do y'all do? Anything? I was waiting for somebody to say that. Who said that? Beg my parents for more. You see, that is, and I was waiting for somebody to say that. The people who are stretching are looking around. So like, I'll start selling things. I'll look around at the resources that I have and figure out ways to generate money. Started selling things. I'll pick up a side hustle. I'll go to Uber Eats, those kind of things. So you look at what's at hand and you create more resources so that you can get your way. That is a stretching mindset. That's what we need to do. How many of you really, thank you for being honest and saying, I call my parents and I beg them to give me more money. That is called a chasing mindset. That is meaning the only way that I can solve the problem in front of me is to have more resources that I already had. It's not getting creative with what you had. It's saying, no, give me more. Give me more. And that is a chasing mindset. Now, this is really important for you guys in the creativity world. Because how creative do you have to be to chase more of the same resources? Anybody? You don't. You don't. So you need to pay attention to what mindset you're jumping into as you're trying to solve problems. Am I chasing more of the same resources, or am I stretching the resources that are in front of me to be more creative? Now, I can tell you that from this point on, like in this semester, I'm going to make you have limited resources and make you stretch them. And the more creative that you can be with the resources that you have at hand, the better your grade will be. Is that making sense? Okay. I'm going to introduce one more concept to you guys that is really super interesting. And then you're going to be like, oh yeah, it's one of those like duh moments, but it's so powerful in your life. And this term is called, let me see if I can get to where my camera can read it. Functional fixedness. Anybody ever heard of this? Functional fixedness. You've heard of it? To excel in being creative, you have to break the hold of functional fixedness in your mind. Functional fixedness is when we see an item that exists, a pen. What is this pen for? What do we do with this, guys? Write with it. That's the given use for this. Functional fixedness is when we can't see past that. And we can't see that we really could use this pen for a whole lot of things. What are some other things we could use this pen for?
A bookmark.
A bookmark. Great. What else could we use it for?
Self-defense.
Self-defense. Fantastic. What else could we use it for?
Open a letter.
To open a letter? I love it. What else can you use it for? Anybody? You could trank somebody with it. Yeah, actually, that actually is true. You could trank somebody with it. I wouldn't do it, but I would want somebody to do it to me if that was the only option and I was about to die. My daughter's been watching so much Grey's Anatomy right now. I think she thinks she could do it. She's totally binge watching it. What else can you use it for? Keep going. Be more creative. What else could we use it for?
Hit your back if you can't reach it.
Yeah, you can scratch your back. How many girls have ever used a pencil or a pen to pull up your hair? It's a hair tie. Nobody's ever done that? You can. Twist and put it in there. It's a hair tie. What else can you use it for?
Drumstick.
Drumstick. See, you're the only one who's breaking through this functional fixedness. You're just rolling them off like he's rolling them. Okay. What else you got?
Chopstick.
A chopstick. Yeah, we could eat with it. What else can you do with it?
Sword fight. Sword fight.
A sword fight. Fantastic. What else can you do? And then after you break it, then what can we do with it? Yeah, so she said you can use the parts inside. You could take the spring out of it and hook it to your phone charger so like the wires and the cord doesn't bend. A cord keeper, very good. What else can you do? Yeah, you could use the ink in place of black paint or something. Anybody in here gonna self-tattoo? Use some ink? Huh? He looked at me like, what? People do crazy stuff all the time. What else could you do?
Retrieve something that's like just out of reach.
You can. You can retrieve something just out of reach. Get in there and get it. Do you see what I mean when I say functional fixedness? Functional fixedness is when you look at something and you can't get past what the original use is for that item. This is used to write. That's why we bought it. However, if you break the hold of functional fixedness on your brain, you can see that this item can actually be used for a lot of different uses. The same is true for most items that exist. Let's see, this swell. What's the swell used for? Holding a drink. Mine's unsweet tea with lime. That's what I love. Okay, so holding a drink. What else could it be used for? A paperweight. Very good. What else? A weapon. Awesome. A what? A bowling pin. Good one. Who said that? That's hysterical. Good. Yeah, what else? Somebody over here, what'd you say?
A coin jar.
A coin? A coin drawer. Yes. Okay, you could store coins in it. What'd you say? Yeah, it could be a stencil to draw a circle. Fantastic. A bell. Let's play music. We can use the pen for that even. Oh my God, look, we use 2 things for different uses. Snap. What else can we do?
Relief on a road trip.
Relief on a road trip. For you, probably. Maybe not me. That'd be, I don't know, I'm gonna try. Okay, what else? A vase for flowers, fantastic. What else can you use it for? Yes. Oh, wow. See, you're getting way out there. It keeps things like wet, or it could keep something really dry if we sealed it up. Very good. What else? A thumb roller. Oh, yeah, like to roll over sore muscles? Okay, good. Good. So is everybody understanding the concept of functional fixedness? Okay, so functional fixedness happens with most every item that's in front of you. Just about every one of them. I loved last week when I said, hey, pull out some items out of your backpack and build an airplane, something that resembles an airplane. How many of you went to a paper airplane first? That is functional fixedness. It's okay, it happens to everybody. And then you started thinking a little bit more, right? So remember back to the video about box strategy when he said usually the first idea that comes to you is usually superficial? Well, what he means there is the first idea that usually comes to you when you see any item like this is going to be the original use for it. It's going to be. And then you recognize, oh man, like I got functional fixedness. Let me take that a few steps further. And let's look through my backpack and see what do I really have in there that I could use to build something that resembles an airplane. You see, the better that you get at this, then the better that you're going to be able to maintain a stretching mindset. Now, when it comes to investing in entrepreneurs, I am going to look much stronger at an entrepreneur who has very little resources and they're doing a lot with it. Give me a poor entrepreneur who's working their butt off and doing a lot of cool things with what they have on hand before you give me one that already has money. And the reason that I say that is, how creative do you have to be when you have resources on hand? You don't have to be creative. How often do you go out and sell items that you have on hand to get money when you have money sitting there to go do whatever you want? How many times do you pick up an Uber Eats side gig when you have money sitting there? Never. Never. But that doesn't have to be the case. It doesn't have to be the case that you having money already is a penalty for you. If you can prove you have a stretching mindset. If you can prove that. Now, how many of you are going to compete in all bag in the business plan competition? Good. in that, some of the things that you're going to see that happens is winners are typically like rely on judges. Now, judges are always different. Some judges look for, different things, right? I've heard business after business who was like successful and already had some investors give a great pitch, but lose. And the reason they lose is because as an investor, we're more willing to give money to the people who are being creative and are hard workers and go-getters than we are to give it to the business who's just scooting by because they've already got money. And this is something that you need to keep in mind as you're doing your pitches. You want to exhibit a stretching mindset. Questions or comments so far, guys? Got any so far? Okay, so this is where we are in the process. So now we're about to start really, really pushing your creativity skills. In the last information that you read from last class, it gave you lots of options to help you start to flip the switch so that you could get into a creative mindset. What we've learned today is that there are some things that might stand in our way of being creative, and one of those is whether or not we have a stretching or a chasing mindset. And we want to be sure that we are trying to do more with less. And that is what a lean startup really is. Okay? Okay. I'm going to stop the recording now.